Do you struggle finding time for your art? For years I did, and every successful artist that I saw was a painful reminder of what I wasn't doing. Why couldn't I make it happen?
You look tired and you're all sweaty.
Did they just have more time than me? Or was I just too lazy or undisciplined, or maybe I wasn't cut out to be an artist? Eventually, I did go full-time with my art, and in this video, I'm gonna share strategies to help you if you struggle with limited time, art block, perfectionism, or fear of failure. I'm not gonna tell you to wake up earlier, delete social media, or just try harder, because that never worked for me. Let's start with the biggest one, actually finding the time to create at all. For an entire year, I planned to open an online shop selling my art prints, and I would excitedly tell my coworkers about my product ideas. Yet months passed without any real progress. After work, I would come home exhausted, and I'd often feel guilty about drawing instead of doing more important things. I kept thinking, if only I didn't have this day job, then I'd finally have time to make my art. Artists throughout history have complained about not having enough time, yet countless successful artists have created amazing art in tiny pockets of time. The famous author Toni Morrison is famously quoted as saying, "I have an ideal writing routine that I've never experienced. 9 uninterrupted hours where I wouldn't have to leave the house, and a space to work where I have these huge tables. Instead, I end up with this small space." But that's all any of us have, just this small space, and no matter what the filing system or how often you clear it out, life, documents, letters, invitations keep coming back in. I am not able to write regularly. I never have been able to, and mostly that's because I have always had a 9-to-5 job. Yet despite these constraints, Morrison wrote her first novel as a single mother of 2, and she won a Pulitzer Prize. Similarly, many authors spend years crafting a book, while Stephen King famously completes his first draft in just 3 months, working less than 3 hours a day. What is his secret? How can you also become prolific, even with a limited time? I used to wait until I felt motivated to create, but Stephen King doesn't rely on motivation, he relies on routine. He shows up at the same place and time every day, whether he's inspired or not, even on his birthday.
Afternoon, everybody.
And realistically, you actually don't need King's schedule. The key is finding a routine that works for your unique situation. When I worked a day job, coming home to draw in the afternoons was totally unrealistic. I'm a morning person, and the afternoons always leave me sluggish and drained. But since I had to be at work by 6 a.m., mornings weren't an option either. Once I realized that weekend mornings suited me best, I committed to that schedule. The reality is, life isn't always predictable. There's going to be phases in everyone's life where you genuinely lack time or energy, whether it's small children, health issues, or major life changes. It's important to acknowledge these periods without guilt or pressure and to work around the realities of your life. And on that note, I highly recommend Mason Curry's book, Daily Rituals. It provides a fascinating insight into how hundreds of creatives fit work into their unique lifestyles. Some people stayed up all night, fueled by alcohol or coffee, and others rose early, disciplined and structured. It is silly to assume that there's one right way for everyone to live. Our uniqueness is what makes us interesting humans. But one common theme clearly emerged throughout the book. Successful creatives built routines uniquely suited to their needs. And even if you can't work every single day, committing to a specific time and a very specific place can help you finally make steady progress towards your creative dreams. Even on mornings when I wasn't in the mood or I didn't produce my best work, I still made far more progress than when I had no plan at all. But when you do sit down to draw, do you ever find yourself stuck, not knowing what to do? I used to dread facing the blank canvas. I would sit down to draw, but instead of starting, I would waste time scrolling Instagram or Pinterest, hoping inspiration would magically strike. Yet, whenever I did manage to actually start the drawing process, I'd quickly find myself in a creative flow and ideas would be pouring out of me faster than I could draw them. Getting started is like lighting a campfire. At first, it takes deliberate effort. You gotta strike the match and then make sure that flame doesn't get blown out by the wind. But once that fire catches, it quickly grows strong enough to sustain itself without your help. And that's the real challenge, actually getting started. How can you reliably get that creative fire lit inside of you? Here's a practical tip that's helped me. I rarely finish a piece in one sitting. I usually spread it across multiple drawing sessions. So when I'm wrapping up a drawing session, I'll stop before I've actually finished all the things I want to do. For example, I might stop halfway through drawing the details on the plants because it'll be easy to know exactly what to jump back into when I come back. It's immediately clear what my next step is. I can jump straight into drawing without any resistance. The number one reason I have resistance to getting started is that it feels so overwhelmingly big and hard. And since it's a billion times easier to keep moving forward once I've actually started, the solution is to make the starting as easy and simple as possible. This approach is related to a powerful idea called the smallest viable action. So what is the smallest, simplest, easiest thing that you can do to get started today towards your creative goals? Instead of the overwhelming task of opening a sticker business, your smallest viable action today might simply be finding a good spot in your house to photograph your stickers for your future online store. But that introduces another problem. Do you struggle to start because you're afraid that you'll hate what you make? Perhaps like me, it's that pesky inner perfectionist that's stopping you from making art. So let me share a couple tricks that have helped me. 1, I found ways to lower the pressure, the high stakes of making something perfect. When I had a physical sketchbook, I never drew in the first page. I told myself that I was saving it for something really good. That second page felt less intimidating, so it didn't matter if that drawing on the second page turned out badly. Now that I mostly work digitally, I tell myself that I have one crap sketch that I need to get out first. I'll create on that first layer and then I'll hide it. And this is almost always true. I rarely use that first sketch. Usually it's the second or third. Just knowing this lowers the pressure, since I realize that my first attempt, it doesn't have to be perfect. I just need to do it, and it can be a really crappy one. Don't aim for perfection. Just start taking small actions forward. Even experienced artists find that their initial vision and their final result,
Did you love it? Yeah!
they differ. The creative process is full of unexpected twists, and often that you're going to create something different and maybe better than what you initially imagined. Another reason I feared starting was a lack of confidence. I worried that I wouldn't actually create something that I liked. And to counter this, I started rearranging my Procreate gallery so that when I opened it, I immediately saw the pieces that I loved the most. Seeing these favorite pieces instantly gives me like this hit of dopamine. I am reminded of how much fun I had creating those pieces, and I feel this sense of pride, like I know I can make something cool. Sometimes I'm even inspired to create something new based on like the images that are at the top of my gallery. Have you ever set a deadline for yourself and then completely ignored it? Yet when a friend asks for a favor,
how would you like to direct?
Brandon, I don't think I'm ready yet.
you always do it, even if you don't really want to.
All right, well, would you mind taking over just for fun for me today?
Okay.
Well, then this next tip is for you. When my dad survived his heart attack, his doctor gave him the classic advice: change your diet and your exercise habits. But the doctor also warned him that most heart attack survivors revert to their old lifestyles within a single year. Not because they lack motivation, their lives literally depend on it, but because changing routines and habits is extremely difficult, even with the best of intentions. For many people, internal motivation isn't enough, but external expectations from somebody else, that's a different story. This is why exercise classes are so popular. You could do yoga at home for free on YouTube, but it's easy to quit halfway through. On the other hand, can you imagine walking out halfway through an in-person yoga class? What would everybody think? So how does this help us artists? First, remember, you don't lack willpower. You're certainly not lazy. In fact, you probably work very hard, often on tasks that you'd rather not do. The real solution has 2 parts. First, learn to say no. If you are a people pleaser, you may find yourself overwhelmed by external expectations that distract from your true priorities. Learning to say no frees you to focus on what matters most to you. I know that this is easier said than done, but remember, this is your one and only life. Finding ways to gently and kindly say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have time to take that on," is going to be really important. Second, Create external accountability. You need to find a way to put yourself in situations where others expect you to follow through. For you, that might be a class or an accountability buddy. When I was trying to break into illustration professionally, I invited a group of friends to meet online every week. And every week we would share what we had done towards our goals. Knowing that I had to report my progress seriously motivated me. I did not want to show up empty-handed or embarrass myself. And this is exactly why I have created a private community for my students in the Illustrators Launchpad. Surrounding yourself with people pursuing the same goals creates powerful motivation. You gain meaningful support, learn from each other's mistakes, and celebrate your wins together, which is incredibly motivating. And if that sounds like it would be something that's helpful for you, you can learn more about it via the links below. Finally, have you ever noticed how some people seem to find success overnight with their art? Well, in this video, I talk about 5 practical strategies that has helped my students explode their progress with their art despite busy schedules and limited time to create.